Thanks, Susan. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me today. So now that Susan's woken you up, I'd like us all to take a moment and actually close our eyes. We're going to do a visualization exercise. When we close their eyes, you in the front too, I want you to think about a big project, maybe the biggest project or product launch that you're working on right now. What are the deliverables? Who are the people that are involved in it? What are you trying to accomplish with that? And now think about the metrics that you have that are assigned to that, and if they roll up to any higher level goals for your company. Now everyone open your eyes. So who here was able to quickly identify the metrics that you were measuring your biggest project by? Anyone raising their hands? Very few. And further than that, of you that had those metrics, how many of you know if they actually roll up to the goals that are so important to your company? I'm seeing no hands, actually. All right, so that's why I'm here today. I want to help you get over this fear and understand the different steps that you can take to understand the metrics that matter for your business. So we'll walk through this journey together today. So what are my metrics that matter? Why am I here actually sharing this with you today? So I have about 12 years of product marketing experience. I've worked at 5 different companies in the product marketing capacity, from companies that are huge like Google and Adobe, where I'm at today, and a handful of startups like AdRoll and my latest company, Social Chorus. And I'm also writing a book. So it's about product launches, but a big section of this will include metrics that matter. So please LinkedIn me and you'll learn all about it when it comes out shortly. So I love Austin, more so than just the breakfast tacos. It's one of my favorite cities in the whole world, and it's such a joy to be here today with you. And I think it's very fitting that I'm here talking about metrics, because my metrics journey actually begins here in Austin. So a few years ago, when I was working at Google as a product marketer, we had a major launch coming out at South by Southwest. So in hindsight, it was a bit of a product marketer's dream, because it combined a really cool campaign element with a ton of products that we were trying to bring to market in a really compelling narrative. So the concept of the campaign was that we took some of these really famous ads of yesteryear, some from the Mad Men era, the print ads like Avis, we're number 2, Volvo, drive it like you hate it. And we actually had the creatives and copywriters that created those original campaigns come back, they're in their 80s and 90s now, come back and help us reimagine these campaigns for the digital era. So for a lot of these people, we were actually teaching them how to use computers, showing them what digital media was like. And one of the outputs of this was really cool. This was the Buy the World a Coke campaign. We created these vending machines for Coca-Cola, and you could send a Coke to places all over the world, so Hong Kong, Paris, London, with a little video saying why you were so excited to send a Coke to this person, this connection all over the world. So it was amazing. We had a house on Rainy Street. There was a never-ending flow of people coming through, standing room only presentation. Basically, we nailed it, and we're just high-fiving each other and drinking champagne throughout the whole South by Southwest. So flash forward a week later, I'm at our all-staff meeting presenting the metrics of our launch, and I specifically own the social media activation piece of this. So I'm talking about all the impressions we got, I'm talking about all the retweets, we got favorited by all these great agency contacts, and my director stops me in the middle of the presentation and says, okay, does this matter? And it felt like a sucker punch to the gut. I was pretty devastated, and I have to say, I pretty much fumbled my way through the rest of the presentation. And after I got through the anger, really, and the embarrassment of that moment, I realized that she was right, that the metrics that we were reporting on really didn't matter to her. They didn't matter to the ultimate goals that we had for the campaign, because we didn't really think through them. So I think in terms of success of this campaign, looking back, it was a wonderful tool for engagement and awareness, but we didn't really drive new prospects, or we didn't have a way to track it. We had no way to track if the products that we were featuring actually got more adoption. Basically, we didn't connect the dots between this amazing campaign and the way that we were measuring it, all said and done. So why is measurement so important now? So then a few years ago, it was really important, but I want to kind of paint the picture that in this moment, it's more important than ever. Here's why. Strava or it didn't happen. So this is something that my husband and I say a lot, Like, why would I go on this bike ride if it's not on Strava? It needs to count. How many of you today, as of 9:05 this morning, have somehow tracked your movement with Fitbit, an Apple Watch, your devices, Strava? Right, so about half the room. So we are living in this measurement economy and measurement society where we want to track really everything that we do. And this is now pervasive not only in our day-to-day lives, but it's also pervasive throughout the businesses that we work on. So let's think about, from an industry perspective, one of arguably the most amazing innovations of our generation. So self-driving cars. So this is just a handful of all the different measurement tools that go into making sure that a self-driving car actually works and doesn't run off the road. So thinking through these a little bit, there's Zen Drive, which helps manage user safety. And then there's things like MetroMile that actually help to track the mileage for insurance purposes. The reason I'm bringing this up is that because measurement is so important, we're able to innovate and actually have amazing new products and new innovations like this come to life. And from a product marketing perspective, we really need to keep that in mind. And it's no longer an excuse that we don't have this. So thinking a little bit outside of tech, there's also a digital transformation happening in the Fortune 1000 companies right now. So a really hot topic for CIOs everywhere is digital transformation. So they are busy transforming companies like Ross, who have traditionally been brick and mortar, have had paper invoicing and really older point of sale machines, bringing them to the digital era. And so this is not only just talking about digital media, but it's also thinking about how the workforce is operating. So everything is becoming digital and everything is becoming trackable. It's really, really important to highlight that. In tandem with this, product marketing has really grown up. So when I first started product marketing, I would constantly get the question, what does product marketing do? And I had lunch and learns where I would explain our job. And a big part of that was really around messaging and positioning. And now we've really grown up and we are considered drivers of the business. We're no longer just making one sheets and putting messaging together. We are considered driving the business. And if you don't have metrics, it's really difficult to help drive the business, frankly. And so Div Manikam, she's actually here today, I think. I don't know if she's walked in the room. Yeah, there she is, great. So she wrote a wonderful Forbes article where she talks about the evolving role of the product marketer. And I felt that this quote was amazing for PMM metrics that matter because it talks about how real-time data is now influencing everything that we do with customer pain points and addressing those matters immediately. So we have the data to be able to iterate and optimize on our campaigns, our launches, our biggest programs in real time. So it's not that we don't have the tools, it's just that we're maybe afraid to use them. And I think what this all comes down to is that you can't manage what you can't measure. So this is a really popular business quote you've probably heard before, but it really rings true over the last 50, 60 years that it's being used. So with this, if you don't know how you're measuring something, how can you possibly make it any better? How can you possibly know what your goals are and if you can achieve them? So this organization, the Product Marketing Alliance, put out a great report in the fall, which has probably been referenced over the past a couple of days. And one of the questions that it asked is, how influential do you feel that product marketing is on goals and strategy and on the overall company? And we, as a collective of product marketers, voted that we think we're about a 6.5 out of 10 on influencing goals and strategy and about a 6.9 on influencing the overall company. I'd give this about a C. We can do better than this, guys. We, as drivers of the business and as product marketers in our unique function, this should really be an 8, 9, or a 10. So this is another reason from a product marketing capacity that we should really be thinking about this and doubling down on the metrics that we're providing. So I'll admit that this is very challenging, and that's why I think so many of you didn't raise your hands this morning because you didn't have those metrics already. It's really difficult to measure everything that we do. We have a lot of aspects of our job that is really strategy and positioning. How do you really measure that end to end? There's a ton of different stakeholders, which I'll talk about in great detail, and they have many different goals. And sometimes those can seem really at odds with each other. And there are also several variables and dependencies. I know all of you that work with product management know that a deadline is never really set in stone. Things are changing all the time. Our customers' behavior is changing too. And there are things that we are taking in that we need to be able to manage and change on real time. So this makes it really challenging. But don't fret. Today's goals are really about solving those major challenges. So what I want to help you do is to be able to choose the right metrics that level up to those high-level goals that really matter. Understand your stakeholders in a better, more compelling way that help you have those great conversations, and also to build a flexible plan. So keyword flexible, something that can be iterated on as you go through and work on this with your stakeholders. So introducing the 5 steps to metric success that we'll go through today. So first, I'll have you understand your stakeholders a little bit more deeply, choose those top-level goals to level up to, align to the metrics that PMM can own and drive, know the specific tools that you can use, and then also build that flexible measurement plan. All right, great. Let's start with knowing your stakeholders. So this is kind of a classic slide for product marketing, and I think that this is what actually draws a lot of us to the role. We love being the Yoda, as Susan put it. I'm definitely stealing that. And we sit in the middle of product, marketing, and sales, so our day-to-day looks very different. We're never working on the same thing in the morning as we were in the afternoon, and this is a really exciting part of the job, and frankly, why I love doing what I do. But it makes it challenging because all of them have, slightly different points of view and slightly different perspectives on the world. So what I want to help you do today is understand at a high level what these personas, since we're all product marketers here, what these personas really care about, and then how to have the conversation with them. So how many of you are at companies that have over 100 people at them? Okay, and then how many are at more startups, so less than 100, let's call it. Okay, so a good mix here. So when I talk through these, I'm going to mention the head of product, the CMO, the head of sales. If you're at a big company, such as, I'm at Adobe now, I'm not working day in and day out with our CMO and loons, unfortunately. I'm working with the head of marketing for a specific business unit. So when you see the word CMO on here, don't be intimidated by that. Think about how that stakeholder and this persona will come to life in your purview. So let's start first with the head of product. What do they really care about? They are really obsessed with how fast the customer usage of the product is growing. So specific goals that they'll have in mind are often product usage, things like how often are they coming back, how fast that's growing month to month, quarter over quarter, year over year, and also churn. Is the product sticky enough that our customers are staying with us, or are they just using us for a short period of time and then bailing? And these metrics really ring true whether you're in B2B or B2C. The CMO is always really thinking about how many customers are we acquiring and what is their ultimate value. So they're thinking about leads. So a lot of you might work really closely with the Susans of the world and the demand gen teams thinking about those marketing qualified leads. MQLs is probably a term you're pretty familiar with. They're also thinking about CAC, so the customer acquisition costs that it costs to bring those customers into the fold. And then similarly to churn, they're thinking about lifetime value. So are those customers staying with us a long time? How long? How can we increase the value of those customers overall? And then the head of sales is really thinking, how are we hitting our revenue goals? So often they're obsessed with the in-quarter metric. Are we going to make our bonus? Are we going to hit that number so I can take my team on the President's Club trip to Hawaii? But they also are thinking about things like time to close. So if they close deals faster from that initial pitch to the time that they're signing the contract, guess what? That gets them a step closer to hitting their revenue goal. So this is something they really care about. And they're also thinking ahead to the pipeline. This quarter might look great, but how are we feeling for Q2 and Q3? Are we set up for success for that? And are there leads coming in from our marketing counterparts that we can work in those upcoming quarters? So I've given you an overview of some of the goals that these stakeholders care about, and they might be slightly different when you get into it with them. But I think it's really important to have the conversation with each of these stakeholders in your organization, whether it's the product manager, head of demand gen marketing, however you can frame it for yourself, but ask them these types of questions when you go to the meeting. Tell them you're building your plan and ask what are their most important goals that you can align on with the programs that you're building out. Then specifically say, how can PMM line up to those goals? What can we do to help you achieve those? And then if they give you a laundry list of 20 things that they really care about, which often happens, ask them to stack rank it and give you the metrics that really matter the most to them. So now that we've seen the world of all the goals that can possibly happen, and I'm sharing this because unfortunately, a lot of companies don't give you that pretty package at the beginning of every year and every quarter that say, these are the 3 top-level goals we're driving to. Some of you might have the luxury of having that, and if so, run towards those, but make sure it's in alignment with the stakeholders that you have. Now we'll talk about the combination of goals to level up to if you don't have that. So again, with the Product Marketing Alliance report, so this group of product marketers, which some of you probably participated in, said that the top priority goals that they are lining up to are generating revenue, marketing qualified leads, and retention. So I'm getting some head nods here. So for the purposes of this exercise, I've picked a few similar to this. So grow revenue, increasing product usage, and decreasing churn. So I picked those because there are things that we're certainly looking at Adobe right now. But also because I want to paint the picture that you should be answering these types of questions when you're thinking through all those goals that you could potentially choose, the whole world. So we want to understand, can you influence them? So back to our slide, you can definitely influence growing revenue, but if you tell the head of sales you are now owning revenue, guess what? You're going to get laughed out of the meeting. So we're going to talk about the metrics that line up underneath that. Are these goals motivating? So are they in line with things that you're doing, or are they so abstract and out of touch that they don't even mean anything to you? And also, do they show a true picture of success? So you've been at your company for months or years. Your understanding of what you're trying to accomplish can help them understand if those goals actually meet that. So are these goals really the things that matter? All right, so now let's talk about how to align the actual metrics that you can track to those top-level goals. So according to Bain & Company, which is a consulting firm similar to McKinsey, they quantify how to talk about these metrics in 3 different ways. So you want to understand if you can quantify what you really know, that is an indicator of the right metric. Does it align with and balance your corporate priorities? And can it be measured and benchmarked accurately? So we'll walk through some examples of that. But first, I want to share a longer list of all the metrics. So this might be a slide you want to take a picture of, but I asked my LinkedIn network, what are some of the metrics that matter most to product marketers? And we came up with this. So I won't go through every one of these, but I'll go through 4 of them today. And if you have questions on some of these, we can chat after this. But you'll see some themes here, like new feature adoption, content downloads, talking to stakeholders, sales cycle length. So there are a lot of things, and this is not exhaustive, but these were the top answers that I got on my LinkedIn post when I was asking about this, and I thought this was relevant for you guys. So to trim it down a little bit, since I only have 30 minutes with you today, let's talk about 4 of these different metrics that PMMs can own. So remember our top-level goals? Yep, from a few slides ago. We're going to line up each of these metrics to those top-level goals. So first, let's think about growing revenue. A way that PMM can actually impact and something that they can manage is win rates. So there's actually a presentation coming up later today that dives more deeply into win rates, but this is something that you can really show an influence on through positioning, through major product launches, and major programs that you're running with prospects. So if you are able to track the overall win rate compared to all the pitches that are happening with customers, this is a major area of interest, especially for sales. When I was at Social Course, my last company, this metric actually wasn't just of interest to sales, it was of interest to everyone, including the CEO. So we were really fired up, and everyone wanted to understand what the win rate was, how we were impacting it, and what we were doing about it. And to the point where I would actually share my win-loss interview notes with everyone in the company because they wanted to understand those insights and that metric as well. Then increasing product usage. So we can definitely influence that, especially with things like launches. So things you could track are new feature adoption and then the amount of active users, and I'll go into this in more detail. Decreasing churn. So this one is really interesting, and there are a lot of things that you could potentially track with churn, but one area I'd like to connect with is content metrics for our existing customers. Are they downloading the latest white papers that we're putting out? Are they attending our webinars? And are they attending events? How are we keeping them in the fold? How are they understanding the world of what we can offer? And then finally, so I was having a conversation about this presentation with a friend recently, the CEO of ShareBird, which is a wonderful platform for product marketers, a Q&A platform. If you haven't checked it out, please do. And he mentioned that the #1 metric that matters to him is stakeholder satisfaction. So I agree somewhat. I think that there are other pieces that line up with this, but I certainly think it's an important thing for you all to understand and to be able to track. So we'll go into this one in more detail as well. All right, so let's talk about win rates. So the win rates can be calculated in 2 ways. So accounts won over the total pitches out there, as well as the amount of revenue that you have won over the total potential revenue out there. So at Adobe, we're tracking both of those metrics right now because it gives us a picture of not just who we are winning and losing against in our competitive set, but also what is the pool of revenue that we potentially could have had, and are some competitors taking a bigger share of that? This is a really important thing to understand. Product usage. So there are some awesome tools out there now. Pendo and Amplitude specifically come to mind that help you track everything related to product usage. So feature adoption. When you launch a new product or feature, track to see if it's adopted. Have milestones along the way that roll up to your overarching goal. And then you can also track things like the number of users that are coming back. So at my last company, our CTO was really obsessed with this concept of monthly active users, rightfully so, because it told us how sticky and how important our product was to the users, the end users that were actually using our app. Content usage. So there are a ton of products out there now that are pricey, I have to admit, that have some level of content tracking. And I think as a product marketer, they're worth every penny from what I've experienced now. If you are putting content out there and you're not tracking it, goodbye. Your one sheet is going into the great abyss and you'll never have any feedback. You'll beg the sales team to tell you, oh, are you using this deck and market? Are you using this one sheet? You might get a couple of comments, but honestly, it's on to the next thing after that content is out there. So if you can have a content management platform that helps you track things like views, downloads, and shares, that really is an indicator of decreasing churn, as well as new revenue growth as well. This is a really important set of metrics for PMM to own. If you don't have a tool like that, I would say to get scrappy. Figure out if you can append different URLs to links that you're sending out through Bitly, or try to find some other way to track. This is really, really important. I can't overstate this. And then finally, stakeholder satisfaction. So to quantify this as much as possible, I think a great way to think about this is pre and post surveys. So if you're about to launch a new set of materials or a new positioning, try to see what their baseline perception of the PMM team is right now. Are they getting the materials that they need? Do they feel like they are armed to have these competitive conversations? And then also verbal or anecdotal feedback. This is really important when you have a review with your boss. What are your stakeholders saying about you? So sometimes those softer metrics become really important, and they also help you to get a baseline understanding of what's working and what's not. So don't discount those. All right, so I've talked a little bit about the tools, but let me lay it out for you. And at the end, I'll have a slide of all of these, so that can be your picture slide. I think as a baseline, having website analytics is kind of a no-brainer, and hopefully all of your companies have that. For enterprises, Adobe Analytics is a really great option. And for smaller companies, Google Analytics is really easy to implement and great as well. Content management, like I just talked about. We're using HighSpot at Adobe, and I love it. It really gives you a level of detail that is really critical to understand what is working, what is the content that our sales team is actually bringing out to the field, and what didn't really resonate with them. It can help you think about things like titles, should I change them? And also think about the length of your materials and just where are the gaps as well. So HighSpot and Seismic are two that I have experience with that I'd recommend. Sales tracking, so things like win-loss. Salesforce is a tool that your sales teams are likely already using. They're inputting information and already moving those sales through the pipeline in different stages. So if you're at a B2B company, you probably have this, make sure that you have a seat, that you get a license for Salesforce. And then we also use Clary, which is a Microsoft product, to help us understand some of those broader metrics as well, and it gives you a very nice visualization. So for product usage, Pendo and Amplitude. I think these were at one point just thought of as just in-product tours, but they really have a plethora of information about all of the different features and tracking you can be doing. It's really remarkable when you see all the different things that you can track, so check those out, and they both have really great content too. And stakeholder satisfaction. So SurveyMonkey is very easy to use, as is Typeform. Use what works for you, but I've had experience with these. And here they all are if you want to take a picture. I also know the Product Marketing Alliance came out with a report just a couple of months ago about all the tools that product marketers use too. Great, so finally on step 5, let's build the measurement plan. It's pretty easy. I'll just give you 3 steps to build it. Create a baseline, even though it's scary. Might be kind of painful to think, okay, gotta start somewhere. How are we gonna get those metrics that we wanted to track? Figure out a way to report on it. Have someone on your team manage it monthly. You should pull the metrics monthly, but just have something that you come back to. Don't set it and forget it. This is something that you should be owning and working through. And finally, iterate. If there's a metric that's not working for you, or something that comes up that you think you should be tracking, we are in the digital age. Don't feel like this is totally set in stone. So thinking through the baseline. So here is a mock, really basic spreadsheet table that you can pull. So to go even a click higher than this, you could actually put the higher level goals at the top of this as well to show that by increasing win percentage, you are growing revenue. So if you wanted to line it up like that, you can. So start with the baseline, even though it's scary. This will help you go through the exercise of figuring out how to pull these different metrics. And then set your goal. So I think I was feeling very optimistic when I put this together. Increasing the win rate, for example, by that much in a year would be pretty phenomenal. So the point is to start with a baseline and then have the conversations with your stakeholders, because they can help put you in the right direction. And if you have to start somewhere. Adding in increments of 10% is a good place to start, but see what's realistic. Do you have any budget that you're putting towards major product launches? Do you have any new compelling content that's coming out that might help you impact this content usage download? What is your plan looking like, and how is it realistically going to line up to your goals? So the last part I'll leave you with on building the plan is really testing and iterating. So I love pilots, not just the kind that flew me here to Austin yesterday, but running small group projects that help you understand what are the mechanics that I need to get this done, and what are the measurements as well. So at my last company, Social Chorus, we ran a pilot on pricing with a small group of people to understand, should our pricing model be evaluated? And it really helped us track the right metrics. So things like time to close were on the table, things like average order value. If we didn't have that pilot, I would have felt very hesitant about rolling it out to the whole company, and I really would have felt like I didn't really understand the metrics very well before rolling it out to everyone. So it's a little bit less scary, so I really encourage you to run pilots where you can and have that be something that is in your normal process. All right, so we've gone over the 5 steps, just to reiterate them one more time. So know your stakeholders, get inside their head. I've given you, some examples of the goals that they really care about, but make sure that those align to what they're thinking. Choose those top level goals wisely, so put them through your framework of, does this actually make sense for our business? Are these motivational and things that we can have? Align to the metrics that you yourself can own and drive, so you have the power. Know the right tools, so explore tools and budget with your counterparts as you can. And then build the measurement plan, and don't forget to report on it monthly, to come back to it, and to iterate on it if you need it. So thanks so much, everyone. I'm Mary Sheehan. You can find me on LinkedIn here, so I can win that pass for next year. Really appreciate the time today. Thank you so much. Thanks. Oh, great. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry, I handed that to you. I forgot.
Is it still working? Questions. I have so many for Mary, but I'm going to let you guys start. And then if there's time, I'll ask like 1,000.
Hi, great presentation. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask, could you tell us a little bit about your interaction with your demand generation team? Like you mentioned content metrics. It's one of our challenges. Just wanted to hear a little bit about that. And also, where does budget for content lie in your organization?
Oh, that's good.
It's two questions.
So the first one was, what is the direction with the demand gen team? So how do I work with them specifically? Great. That's an awesome question. So usually with a demand gen team, they have programs that they are already running and kind of a machine that's already going. So they might have an email program, so a weekly sequence of emails, or a digital marketing program that's already running. How I work with them is I understand the different channels that they are affecting and understand what their goals are ultimately, and I help to provide content for that. So I might meet with them at the beginning of a quarter or the beginning of the year and say, okay, here are the major product launches that we have coming up. Here are some major thought leadership topics that we want to get. How can we get those elements across all of the different channels that you have, and how can we work together on setting a plan for that? So it's really, I think, earlier that you can loop them in, the better. I know all of you hate it when a product manager comes to you the week before and says, hey, go launch this. So similarly, the demand gen team hates it when you say, hey, I have this cool white paper, can you go promote it? You guys should be working together. And then remind me of your second question again. What is the budget? Oh, where is the budget for content? So the budget for content management, I mean, I know product marketers, my joke used to be, we're poor, please help me on the product marketing team, please, share your budget with me. So it can come out of the product marketing budget if you're at a big company, but I think it's honestly a really good item to have in the sales budget. The content is ultimately for sales, and if you can help paint the picture with your head of sales that this content is only going to improve if you have the metrics to track it and a repository where they can actually access everything, I think it will be an easier sell. So I'd start with sales if your product marketing budget is non-existent. Yeah.
I had the pleasure of hearing the CMO from Adobe at a talk last year. You both did a great job. So, so at our company, product for us is more on the back end of the metrics that you showed: customer usage, engagement, and retention, less on the acquisition side.
Yep.
Can you talk me through the way that you guys balance that with the getting people in and keeping people in for product marketing at Adobe?
Yeah, definitely. So Adobe is huge. So I'm on the Adobe Ad Cloud team. So we are thinking about both, actually. So we're thinking about new customers that coming in the door. How do we get them? And also the actual measurement of it. So I would just take a look at your business, and I think that this can evolve over time. We really have sort of like a 50-50 split about what we really care about in terms on my specific business unit. So we're thinking about, okay, we have this revenue goal for the year, but we also have a retention goal. We want to make sure that everyone is sticking with us. So how do we balance both of those in the activities that we're doing? For the more back end, so the engagement piece of it, sometimes I like to think as a growth marketer. So how do we help to impact product usage by doing things in product, like with Pendo, to help them discover and understand new products? How do we have user groups with customers to understand what would keep them coming back more? So I think looking at your business, it sounds like you're maybe more 80-20, more on the back end of that. So define what you end up doing in terms of the exercises and the programs that you're running, depending on what your goals are overall. So we have to look at it 50-50 from where I'm at right now. Yeah.
We have time for one more question, but as I walk down that direction, Mary, how can we get your book?
Oh, well, let's connect on LinkedIn, and I will do an announcement on that shortly. So I just had a baby. He's 7 months old, so that has sort of delayed my launch plan a little bit. That's my excuse, but it's in the final throes of it. So I hope you guys will enjoy and support the arts when it comes out.
So love the quote, what gets measured gets managed, and maybe a question for high spot, but something I'm just curious of as you put out new content. Have you seen anything that worked tactfully, like social media campaigns worked better, or shorter the documents work better? Any stories or guidance you could provide would be great.
Yeah, so we use HighSpot right now mainly for that sales piece of it, so sales enablement. So I think that there also has to be a promotion engine. So things that I've seen well are really just thinking about it as an internal campaign. So we have an internal newsletter where we highlight any new content. We have kind of a monthly call where we're telling everyone about the new content. And then we're going and making sure that the top content that we produce is known about through our main stakeholders. So we sort of think about, okay, what are all the internal channels that we should be promoting this content to get adoption, and then work from there. So I would, for your particular business, you might think, okay, what are all the different pieces that I could be reaching my customers, and kind of build it out from there. But I would say it's mostly internal for us at this point. Yeah.
All right, is there one more question? We got to make it fast, because otherwise we'll be here till 5.
Hey, thanks, John, for me to open. That was a fantastic roadmap of things you should consider. Are there one or two things that you should really watch out for along the way? Some big gotchas that kind of like, when you see this, you know how you have to recalibrate?
Yeah, I would say, I think the big gotcha was just making sure that you have metrics and that they matter to the people you're talking to. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to share with you guys today, this story from my days at Google really kept coming back to me, and how really devastating it was that I had gone through this whole launch, this amazing, New York Times article about it and everything, and the director of our group didn't even care about what we were presenting on. So I think the big gotcha is making sure that you are not in a silo creating your own metrics, and that you really take the time to talk to your stakeholders, share the plan, and just having a plan and sharing kind of that baseline will help them to have a lot of confidence in you. So just go through the exercise would be the biggest thing I would say. Yeah, thanks.
Huge round of applause. Mary, thank you.